This is Motivation. I'm Lori Joy Kingwell.
And I'm Chrissy Van. We're two dreamers on two wheels inspired by our community.
And celebrating the voices we're just lucky enough to discover along the ride. So if not already, like, subscribe, follow along, do what you gotta do to not miss an episode.
Motorcycles come in all sorts of engine sizes, designs, colors, brands, and shapes. When on the road, there's an essence of freedom. The worries of the world melt away, and when on two wheels, the farthest thing on the mind is what others may think of you. But in life, it's easy to get caught up. Self-esteem can deflate as quickly as a tire hitting a nail. Confidence and self-love can stall out as we allow our minds to become consumed with what others think of us, how we view our own bodies, expressions, and sometimes it's a downright battle with our own self-love. Today's episode is Clutch into Confidence. And we have a very special guest joining us, Selene Dior, founder and CEO of Vitae Apparel. Selene was a competitive swimmer for 16 years. In her words, when she stopped competing, her self-esteem faltered. Over time, she worked to build her confidence up while channeling her energy into creating Vitae Apparel. Vitae Apparel features a line of swimsuits and activewear that aim to redefine the social and physical standards of women around the world. Selene has built a community that celebrates the fact that beauty comes in all shapes, sizes, and ethnicities. She created the brand at the age of 18 in 2016 and blew past $1 million in revenue in 2020. Selene is a powerhouse who has been recognized by BC Business 30 Under 30, has had her brand featured in Forbes, Health, and on Netflix's Too Hot to Handle. Plus, on top of her apparel line, she's the founder of a tribute agency. And she still finds time to enjoy free time on her dream ride, a Ducati Street Fighter. She has proven herself as someone who pushes beyond perceived boundaries and constantly challenges herself. She works diligently on building her own confidence while lifting others up along the way. This is the Motivation. Hello, Selene.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I do want to preface this that unfortunately my co-host Lori is unable to join us today, but given that epic bio for you, I think a lot of people can understand you have a busy schedule, so we're just so happy that you were able to lend your time to us today.
No worries. Thank you so much. I love being on podcasts.
Yeah, well, and it's such a great intimate way to get to know each other. And you and I actually had a chance to connect at a Fitness for International Women's Day panel. And I was blown away when I received your bio, and it's typical me. I went down a rabbit hole where all of a sudden I wanted to learn more and more about you. And it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, I admire anyone, and I use this in a way of saying I'm not an ageist by any means, but I was a very ambitious woman as well throughout my entire life. And when I see someone like yourself at a young age that managed to essentially change the script of their entire life in a few short years, that's a brain I want to pick. I could be 70 and still want to have the conversation with you because there's something to be learned there. And then reading more about you, everything you stand for and represent in regards to building up empowerment of women, confidence of women, and then finding out that you ride a motorcycle as well. I was like, hell yes. So on that note, you spent 16 years as a competitive swimmer, and I understand that you were also bouncing countries as well through your youth. So talk to me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I remember my mom put me in like a few different things when I was really young. So like I think I started piano when I was 2.5, and I started swimming same age, 2.5. And then I just remembered feeling like I belonged in the water, and I loved going to swimming lessons. And my mom actually put me in swimming lessons because she almost drowned and had a very traumatic experience when she was a kid. So she wanted to make sure that I knew how to swim and that I could, survive in the wild, in the ocean. I became really good at it. So I did competitive swimming for 16 years, and I honestly loved every moment of it. I spent a lot of time in the pool in the morning, after school, sometimes even practices twice a day. And I wake up at 4:30 in the morning for a few years straight. And yeah, I loved it a lot. And throughout swimming, I think I learned a lot about resilience, never giving up, and working together with a team, but still having like your individual goal. I feel like a lot of team sports, you play with a team and you learn all about teamwork and you just kind of work together as a team. But for swimming, it's such an individual sport. But also there are relays and you do have to learn about how to work with your teammates. So I think I learned a lot about that at a very young age. And unfortunately, I had to quit swimming when I was 16 because my family couldn't afford keep paying for all the travels to different cities and countries for competitive swimming. So I became a lifeguard and started saving up money for university and helping out my family as well.
I 100% agree what you're saying too. The level of dedication in sport and the lessons that you learn that translate to your entire life. Any athlete can tell you that there is such a boundary that you're able to push. Your mental limits, I think, are changed from the fact that you're constantly challenging them. But knowing how much sport means to someone when they're in it. And I mean, anyone that has done any level of competitive athleticism knows it is a massive amount of dedication. What was it like for you not being able to continue? Because I'm sure it was difficult for your parents as well, being in that position at that time to not be able to continue pushing you forward.
Yeah. And being honest and transparent on a podcast, I had a huge fight with my mom because of that. And I think growing up, I really wanted to go to the Olympics. And when I did training for swimming in China, I was good, but I didn't see the level of improvement until I moved here again when I was 14, because I went through training intensively here in Canada, Vancouver. I did a lot of training like twice a day over the weekend, all that. And I just saw so much improvement in my performance that I haven't been able to see in the past, like 5-6 years swimming in China. So I really thought I had a chance to go to the Olympics. And it was heartbreaking to hear that my mom said, okay, like we can't afford this. Like, I'm not going to support you to do this anymore. And we tried different ways. We went to a few different swim clubs to see if they're willing to give us a discount, or maybe I can like work part-time as a coach to make up for it, but nothing like really worked out. But in the end, I do sometimes still think about the times if I could go to the Olympics, and watching like the Tokyo Olympics, it definitely gets me like rallied up, and like it makes me so excited for these athletes going to competitions like that. And it was a dream of mine, but I love my life now, and my life has changed so much. And I definitely didn't see myself being an entrepreneur and living the life I am living now and having a company at 24. So I think my life drastically changed a lot throughout the last 6-7 years.
It's amazing when all of a sudden you're presented with a challenge like that, because that is a massive challenge and it challenges your relationships. And honestly, at that age, I imagine it challenges your identity as well. I think it takes us a long time to figure out that this isn't who I am, it's what I do. But when it's so much of your life, you're like, no, this is a lot of who I am. And that would be a challenge most certainly. But I think it's fair to say that pinnacle moment completely changed the script of your entire life into a path that is incredible, and one that wouldn't have probably come to fruition otherwise. So before we dive into how Vitae Apparel came to life, I'm curious to know, as women in sport in particular, there's a lot of focus on our nutrition and our bodies. And I think it can be really difficult when you're transitioning from a competitive mindset to adapt. So what was that like for you? Because we face a lot of pressures as women, and you were really making this transition out of competitive sport at a very pinnacle age that I think a lot of us are struggling with body image. I mean, let's face it, I'm in my mid-30s, so it's still an uphill battle, and we can thank society for that. But what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really difficult, especially being a teenager. I was 16 at the time, and being in high school, you constantly kind of comparing yourself to other people, seeing how you look. Am I fit? Am I not fit? And you are just super self-conscious, I think. And I definitely went through a period of time where I drastically gained a lot of weight because I was eating the same amount that I was eating when I was training twice a day. And I just kind of didn't stop eating. My body was used to eating that amount, but my activity level wasn't at that level anymore. So I gained a lot of weight in between 16 to 17. And it made me really self-conscious. I tried to stop myself from eating as much. I try to go to the gym as much as I can. And it just wasn't the same as when I went training twice a day in the pool. It wasn't the same as how I looked then. And it really hurt my self-confidence. But I think what really changed my mindset was realizing that I shouldn't really go to the gym to look a certain way. And I went through different periods of my life thinking and trying to change my mindset because I quit the gym so many times. And I think really it wasn't until I was 23 or 22 that I actually finally changed my mindset. I hope for good that I don't go to the gym to look a certain way. I go to the gym to improve my mental health, to improve my physical health, and to live the healthy lifestyle that I want, and to actually get my body moving to energize myself more throughout the day. So I think that mindset really changed how I view myself. And I will say that being Chinese, it didn't really help. In our culture, if you gain weight, your parents are going to make sure that they point it out to you right away. They're like, oh, you gain weight, you should go to the gym, or you should exercise.
Tough.
I know. And it was really tough being 16 and having your family say that to you. But I will say that it definitely made me stronger, and it made me become the person I am today, and it led me on this whole journey of empowering other women to love themselves for who they are, no matter what they look like, no matter where they're from. And I think it really inspired me to do what I do now.
Well, this is where I think it's the perfect segue because it marries your determination, your tenacity that was harnessed throughout your entire competitive swimming career. And then to go through this difficult transition, you've been able to apply all that determination and tenacity and pair it with everything that you want to pay forward into the world by being this voice and representing through your company this message of empowerment in every body. So let's talk about the birth of Vitae Apparel, because I understand that the idea was garnered when you were spending time as a lifeguard. So explain how this idea came to life.
Touching back on the other question a little bit, how I felt when my parents made me quit swimming. If it wasn't because that my parents couldn't afford it financially anymore, I probably would have never became a lifeguard, and it wouldn't have led me to start Vitae. So it's very interesting looking back now how life works.
We talk about this all the time on the podcast because it really is like, it blows your mind. And even my mom used to always say that to me growing up, that the story when you're in those moments of struggle and strife seem to make no sense why you're there. And then when you get to look backwards, you're like, oh my God, the pieces all line up. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And without that, I wouldn't have ended up there. So on that note, you're lifeguarding, and I understand you noticed a common problem out there on the slides.
Yeah. So I was lifeguarding, and I was working my ass off full time pretty much while in high school. I think at this time it would have been 2 years of lifeguarding, 16 to 18 years old. I noticed that a lot of women come off the water slides or the diving board and their bikini top would just fall off and they're embarrassed. And I've seen this multiple times throughout my 2 years of working as lifeguard then. And I thought to myself, well, there must be a better product out there. And I remember this was the summer after graduation of high school, and I had a bit more free time. I was shopping online looking for bikinis to buy so that I could wear it to the beach or go to the lake for the summer. And I couldn't really find anything that I loved. And being a competitive swimmer, I'm very active in the water. I like to actually go swimming or jet skiing or surfing or whatever. And I had trouble finding bikinis that would actually stay on, but also look fashionable. At the time, there was only your Speedo, Nike, Adidas bikini tops available, and they kind of looked like sports bras. And so I couldn't find anything that I loved, and I decided to start designing my own. So I grabbed a sketchbook and just drew it with pencil on my little sketchbook, and I drew a few designs. And I did fortunately have the experience of understanding a little bit how the manufacturing works overseas, because I went to school in China. And I witnessed my mom kind of try starting her own little clothing line when I was 14. So I do have a little bit of knowledge there. And I just started to look for manufacturers online and send them my sketchbook drawing and send them as much photos as possible to show them and demonstrate them my vision. And that's kind of how I started to send our designs to manufacturers. I would pay for their sample and they would come up with the sample and we would go back and forth a little bit on, okay, like this needs to change or this needs to be longer. And I think the sampling process probably took about, I would say like 4-5 months. Yeah, I finally narrowed down to one manufacturer, and 6 months after I had my idea, we launched in December 2016.
It's unbelievable. And one of my favorite quotes is the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. And so undeniably, I'm sure you're going to school, you're trying to help out your family as well, make money to live. And then on top of it, all this hard work going on behind the scenes. So from launch, how long did it reach a point where you went, oh my goodness, I actually have something here? Because there's a lot of people that go through steps and try to bring an idea to life. And if success isn't instantaneous, they quit, which clearly you're not a quitter based on the fact you have this competitive nature. So talk me through where all of a sudden you were starting to see a little bit of momentum.
I remember when I started my company, my then boyfriend told me that, hey, a lot of companies don't survive past the first year. So he told me at the time that if I surpass the first year, I am basically like good to go. So I had like zero expectations, honestly, when I started the company. And I think that also contributes to the person I am. I don't really put too much thought into a lot of things. I'm kind of a doer and I just think of an idea and I do it and I don't think too much. And I honestly think if I were someone that thought a lot or that I was just looking into it too much, I probably would have never started. For example, after I started the company, I remember people asked me like, oh, how did you start? Like, did you do like competitive analysis? Did you check out your competitors? This and that. And I was like, actually I didn't do that. And after I started, I looked into it more and I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of companies out there. And I think to myself, if I were to do that length of research before I started the company, I probably would have never started because I probably would have just thought to myself, oh, wow, there's so many competitors. Like, what makes us special? Like, how do I differentiate ourselves from other people? And probably think that, oh, it's not a good idea to start it. But I think who I am really helped me take that step and not think or not look back. And there's pros and cons, definitely. But yeah, I think I remember probably after the first month of launch, we generated like $3,000 in sales for the first month. And I was like, oh, wow, like I am making more than I'm making as a lifeguard right now. And this is just like month one. Like it's only uphill from here. So I was super positive, naive. I was 18. I don't have like any previous business experience. So really it's just learning along the way and being positive and not looking or thinking into things too much, I think really helped me get to where I am now.
And it's one of those things where your mind, when it's focused on an avenue like that, you have such this high level of determination and behind it. And it's literally now a momentum game of building upon it. So talk to me a little bit about the transition into having an inclusive line of fitness wear complementing the swimwear line.
Yeah, when I started Vitae, I knew I wanted to build a company and that has an amazing community. I think even before I launched, I knew how I was going to market our designs, our products, and how I was going to build a community. And that was forever my number one goal, is building an empowering and supportive community of women. And really how I pivoted to fitness was right before COVID. I think maybe 6 to 8 months before COVID, I took a poll on our Instagram story with our ambassadors and also Facebook group. And I asked them, hey, like what other designs do you want to see? Because at that point we were solely swimwear and we sold majority to Vancouver and a little bit of US. And, living in Vancouver, the summer is super short. And I realized that it's a very seasonal business and the revenue fluctuated a lot. And during winter months, I was really trying to get my name out there in Australia and those other hotter countries in the winter. And it was a lot of money and a lot of expenses, and it was a lot of work. And Australia already has tons of swimwear companies at the time. And I turned to my community and I was like, what other products would you guys want to see? Like, what other products do you think like would make you feel confident that you would love? And a lot of people actually said fitness apparel. So we launched our first fitness apparel collection and it sold out within 4 days. And I had to put everything.
You.
I know, thank you. And I had to put everything on pre-order. And throughout 2018 to I would say like 2019 September, we were dropping products every 3 months and doing a restock every 3 months because fitness apparel was so much more expensive to make and it costs a lot more. And we're bootstrapped, so we didn't have amazing cash flow. And I just had to sell out and then order and then wait and then repeat, right? To kind of grow the cash flow in order to order more inventory every time. And right before 2020 COVID hit, we made the switch to focus on fitness apparel. 95% of our sales were fitness apparel at the time. And sure enough, 3-4 months later, lockdown comes and our business just goes crazy and it booms because we already have a very engaged community. And when COVID hit, we did a lot of, I would say, valuable content. So for example, we worked with a meditation coach and we did IG lives, and we even found like bartenders, like make fun drinks at home, just showing a lot of content and a lot of knowledgeable content to our followers and community, keeping them engaged, bringing all the eyeballs onto our page. That really, really helped us grow, I think, 300% comparing to the year before that during 2020.
Oh, I love stories like this because it really just shows when you put all the right foundations into motion and put the work behind it that you can completely change the script on your life in not that long of a time.
Yeah.
Now, I love that you keep highlighting as well that the essence of Vitae is community. And I know that collaboration was a really big part of the growth of your business. And the thing that I find that parallels so well with the motorcycle community is kind of the same thing. It's an individual sport, but we thrive together. That's where all the joy and the juice of the relationships of the motorcycle community come together on the road, even just with a simple wave of your hand. And so you've kind of used the same essence of community to grow and build yourself. So talk to me about the collaborations, why they were so important to you, and really about overall harnessing that messaging of confidence and empowerment to far and beyond. Like at this point now, around the globe, your message is going.
In the very beginning, I wanted to build a brand ambassador program and really build our community because I know that there were a lot of women out there feeling the same way that I was feeling, not confident, not happy about our bodies. We don't love the way we look. And every day we kind of judge ourselves. And at the time, I was on a journey and I knew that there were tons of women out there that are going through the same thing. And I really wanted to just create a community where everybody felt safe to share what they were going through and, you know, cheer each other up, be there for each other. And that's kind of still 1000% where our bread and butter is. And through collaboration, we are, I don't want to use the word picky, but we're pretty picky on people that we collaborate with because we want to make sure that they value the same things we value as a brand. They promote, you know, body positivity. They empower other women through their work, through their community, through whatever they do. I want to make sure that they also support women and that was very clear, a very clear messaging in their social media or whatever they do. And so we always partner up with people that can offer value to our community. We can also help them grow their social media or business. And very, very importantly is to have the same values. And I think collaboration really helps both parties, really.
I know that you and I talked about this briefly at the panel, is that as women, society often tries to pit women against each other or create this really negative competitive environment where I think we're finally in this part, and I think social media has a lot to do with it because we're more connected than ever, that we're realizing that the power is in supporting each other and that so much can come from that. And I'm curious to know, obviously from a business side, it's been advantageous for both parties, but as someone like yourself that's been on this journey of building your self-confidence, what have you gained from these relationships that you've built from a personal standpoint?
Yeah, I would say that I think there's still a lot of work to be done within the women community, just from an entrepreneur standpoint too. I find that oftentimes women tend to share a little bit less. And I'm really trying to, step out of that box by like creating a community. And like, for example, like I always have like meetups with local women entrepreneur and just to have dinners or whatever to share each other's ideas. And I find that women tend to be a little bit more reserved. And I do want to do whatever I can, whether it's in the entrepreneur community or in our brand ambassador, in our company community, anywhere I am, I want to be able to share what I know. So I was pretty shy in the beginning of my entrepreneur journey. I didn't network a lot. I didn't know a lot of people. And in 2019 and 2020, I really tried to step out of my comfort zone, especially during the lockdown. I messaged a lot of local entrepreneur or businesses that I like looked up to or thought it was interesting. And I just messaged the founder. I was like, hey, like, do you want to hop on a Zoom call? All of these are women, and I really wanted to connect with other women and just build a community. And I wasn't as shy anymore. And they were like, yeah, let's hop on a Zoom call. And through like genuine sharing and just raw emotions, sharing your business experience, what works, what didn't work, what are the struggles you're having. I think if you proceed to the world with authenticity and honesty and just the willingness to share and offer, I think people will receive that back. And I think a lot of times people don't want to share as much, or they feel like they're holding back is because maybe the way we're approaching it, we're not genuine enough, or we're not sharing enough ourselves, So I think that really helped me. And I bring that mentality to everything I do, whether it's working with an influencer or talking to an ambassador, a customer, my team, other entrepreneurs, anybody that I network with. I want to share as much as I can. And I want to give like 110% of my energy and knowledge and share it with other people. And I think people definitely see that and give back the same.
I love that. The authenticity and the fact it needs to be symbiotic between all relationships in that party, and there's so much to be gained from that. Yeah. And one of the things that excites me so much about you is you've literally already accomplished more than some people do in their entire lifetimes, because we know a lot of people, when you were talking about how you didn't dive too much into the market research and all those elements at first, you were just a doer. A lot of people would have given themselves a million reasons why they will fail before they even try and do. And then they just chop it off right there. So you're going to be going incredible places even beyond that. I just know that. But I'm curious, circling back to the relationship with your parents and that pivotal moment that set all of this into motion. One thing we didn't mention, but you did send in your write-up to me, was that you were saving money for university, but ultimately this all came to life and you went in a different direction. So what was that like for your parents then to all of a sudden follow this course? And what do they think now, seeing your unbelievable success story come to life?
It was really tough. And I don't think I've mentioned this story a lot, but I went to UBC for one term. And at the time I was studying forestry. And how I got into forestry was because I skipped a lot of classes when I was in grade 12 to work as a lifeguard. And my marks weren't high enough to get into engineering. That's what I wanted to get into. So I got into my second choice, which was forestry. And my plan was to transfer back into engineering after a year. And I started going to school for first term and I didn't really love it. And then I think I was in school for maybe 2 months and then I started skipping classes again, because at the time I was also prepping to launch Vitae and I was working full time as a lifeguard. So I really gave it a try, I think, for university, but it really wasn't for me. After term one, I launched Vitae right when finals were happening, and I still passed everything, but it was really a struggle. But
Yeah.
working full time and trying to prep for launch and going to school, and transit was over an hour for me each way. So
Wow.
I only had 24 hours a day, and I kind of evaluated to myself, and I was like, hey, like, what do you love doing and what makes you happy? So I actually loved working at the pool at the time. I learned a lot from the people working at the pool. My colleagues at the time were much older than me, and just hearing their life story and their experience in life really helped me gain a lot of valuable, I would say, knowledge and perspective in my own life. And I think that has a huge part in leading to where I am today. And at the time, I stopped lifeguarding, I think maybe 2 years after running Vitae, or a year and a half. And I stopped going to UBC when I didn't feel right anymore. And I kind of actually lied to my mom at the time. I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing online school and I'm just going to work more and make more money so I can save up more. But I'm still doing school online. And I remember going to China in the middle of the school year to go visit my manufacturer. And my mom was like, how are you here? Don't you have school? And so I was like, oh yeah, like it's online. But it wasn't. Like I was not going at the time. And
You had to do what you had to do in
I
that
know.
moment, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just felt like I had to do that because she didn't go to university, and in our culture, going to university is the way to succeed and make a life out of yourself. And she was really strict, so I didn't really feel a lot of support there. And I think I probably lied to her for a year and a half. I think
That's
it
hard.
was, yeah, it was hard. I think it was going into third year. She probably kind of knew. She was like, you're not going to school, are you? I was like, yeah, no, like I decided to take a gap year. I don't think I've told that story a lot, but it was really tough, I think, fighting that and having to like run the business by myself, going through all those challenges, and let alone like not really having family support. And everything I put into the company, I earned from lifeguarding. I saved up. And yeah, it was really hard. And I think now she finally came to accept it more and understand that this is what I'm going to be doing probably for the rest of my life, and that I'm never going back to school. I think it took her probably almost 4 years to realize that I am never going back to school.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hard.
It's one of those things where in life, I think oftentimes people view things for either their kids, or sometimes we view it for ourselves, where it's like this recipe for the happy, successful life. And it's a lot of check boxes. Like you do this, then you go to school, then you get married, then you have 2.5 kids. And I think a lot of us are quickly realizing that doesn't have to be the path, but it's really difficult when society, and then on top of that, when you have this like family pressure as well, that all of a sudden you're accomplishing all these incredible things. I can't even imagine the difficulty when you know that you're bringing this vision to life and it's being successful. But on the other hand, because you're not going the path dreamed for you in another direction, it could be viewed almost as a disappointment. That's such a unique challenge to have to overcome. But I'm glad that you persevered and pushed through it. I have to know, what do your parents think of the Ducati?
Oh my God, I have a really funny story. So when I was 16, that's when you can get your driver license, right? And I remember when I was 16, my mom was like, oh, you should get like a scooter, like one of those that you drive in Europe, in France, like the little tiny scooters. Yeah. And I was like, oh, like that's interesting. Like I don't remember why she mentioned that. I think because it was a lot cheaper for me to buy, because she wasn't going to buy it for me. I had to buy it myself. And she was like, oh yeah, like you can still get to Richmond and work, and you can be on your scooter. And it's way cheaper for insurance, gas, and all of that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool idea. And then I got my license. Right as I got my license, I bought my first motorcycle. I got a Honda CBR 125. I was 16 at the time. So my mom at the time lived mostly in China, and I lived with my grandparents here in Vancouver. And I remember one day my coworker from the pool actually helped me ride the bike back home because I didn't know how to ride yet. And I parked the motorcycle on the driveway, and my grandpa was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's my coworker's motorcycle." And then I'm like, "She's just gonna put it here for a few weeks." And then, a few weeks go by and the motorcycle is still there. My grandpa was like, "That's yours, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah." And then my mom came back in the summer. I bought my motorcycle in April. So I think she came back in June and she saw that and she was so mad. She bought life insurance for me because she was like, if you die, at least I get money. That's how mad she was.
Oh, wow.
I know. And little did I know, a few months after that, she got her very own motorcycle, a Harley 988.
Yes.
So last summer we went riding together. And she has a Harley right now too. So we're going to go again when the season opens. But yeah, she definitely hated that. But she also fell in love with it herself afterwards.
Oh, that's so great that you two get to share that as well. What was it like going on that first ride together with your mom, especially considering, obviously, from the conversation that we've shared, there's been times where the relationship was clearly challenged just from you on this pursuit of your dreams and your mom coming to terms that your dreams may not exactly align with what her dreams are for you.
It was honestly very heartwarming, and also it made me look back and realize that, oh wow, like we actually have a lot in common and not just argue all the time. And I cherish the moments that I can spend with her riding the motorcycle. I also bought her that motorcycle, so that was a really
amazing,
nice gesture, I think. Oh, actually, I bought it for her last Mother's Day, 1 year ago, almost. Yeah, and she really loved it.
I'm obsessed with your story like that.
Thank you.
Oh, that must have felt so good. It gives me goosebumps almost to just think getting to that point and being able to do that for someone like on so many levels, that must have just meant the world to you, because not only is that a gift to your mom, but then simultaneously it's like I've made it and I can do this for you. How did you surprise her?
She kind of moved back here for a little bit during the lockdown and all of that because she couldn't be in China. She had to come back. And so she was really bored here, and she told me that she wanted to get a motorcycle. And then so we went to look at a few Harleys, and she found one, and we went to see it, and then she like loved it, and I was like, I'll buy it for you. And she loved it. She rode it all summer everywhere.
Can you imagine everywhere she's stopping? Yes, my daughter bought this for me.
Yeah.
That's such a cool feeling.
But yeah, it felt amazing being able to buy that for her, because kind of also like, hey, we don't see eye to eye all the time, and I didn't go to school like the way you wanted me to, but I am where I am now, and I can, afford to surprise you with this gift. And it made me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's everywhere that you are currently is because of all those moments that brought you to that point of pushing yourself to this whole other level once you realized a path that you thought you were going in regards to potentially the Olympics wasn't the path anymore. I mean, that can be crippling to an individual right there where they just full stop. So I just love how you've been on this endless pursuit and wanting to convey this incredible message and sense of community to the people that have followed your journey and are continuing to join your journey. I'm curious, what are your sights set on? Because you've accomplished so much in a really short span of time. So what's kind of on the horizon for you from here?
Last year, our company went through a lot of changes. I want to say I never really worked a proper job. I think lifeguarding is so flexible and so unlike any other job on the market. It's almost not like a job. It was like a hobby for me. I had so much fun, and I didn't have a lot of leadership experience, customer service experience. And I really had to learn that last year, being a CEO and founder and leading a team of 20 women. I had to learn so much about being a people's manager and understanding, how to talk to a staff properly about performance or about like things I had on my mind, and just properly manage a team of people is really hard. And it's still a struggle and a learning curve for me now. But I think it's something that I'm really passionate about this year, is to learn how to be a better leader, a better founder, and just to lead a high performing team and still have a really good relationship with them. So that's what I'm working on this year. And I think in the next 3 years, I really want to hit 8 figures. Right now we're about mid 7 figures. And so that is I guess a more of a long-term goal of mine in the next 3 years.
You will.
Yeah.
Just talking to you, I was like, you will. I can't wait till I look back and I'm like, oh, I remember when we had that conversation. Yeah, you've got it. You've got it. And this is why I'm so happy that you've shared your time with us today, because these are the types of conversations that spark something in individuals, because we all have the power to change the script in our lives, change the stories that we've told ourselves, overcome adversity. But you almost need that little spark in the ignition sometimes to remind ourselves that we have this one life and this incredible opportunity to make it happen. And you have got it. So I'm just beyond thrilled that we've been able to share this space. We do our motivation maintenance every episode, which is essentially a tool that our listeners can take with them. So what would be a nugget that you would like to share that people may be able to learn from you and implement within their own lives?
I have 2. So I'm someone that is very disorganized, and I have had to learn how to be organized, managing many different projects, the team, making sure the company is going forward. And I use this journal called the Best Self Journal. It really helped me organize and time block my day to work on projects. And I also read this book. I think it's called Productivity by David Allen. It really talks about how you can organize your day and make it more efficient. So that really helped me. And then something else that really, really helped me, and I've been through so many burnouts, and when I was younger, I didn't know what burnout is. And I'm like, I'm just going to go until I need a break. I'll just take a 3-hour break and keep going. And I really learned that burnout is real and that we can't push our bodies and also our mental health to the peak. So I've started doing solo retreats last year. In March was my first one. I just go to the island or go somewhere that's like nearby, or you can go somewhere further too. And I just turn my phone off, just read, meditate, yoga, stretch, cook, do things I love by myself, like no communication with anyone for like 2 days or 3 days, depending. And recently I went to Bowen Island. That one wasn't no tech, but I definitely went to explore the island by myself. And you just feel so refreshed and rejuvenated and recharged afterwards. And I was super ready to come back and work on all the things that I had planned on my solo retreat. And on the solo retreat, I also do a lot of reflection. So reflection on my career, friendship, relationship, my life, all of that, and set goals for myself and review them every quarter and see if I'm on track or what else I want to improve on, what's something new I want to learn. And those really, really helped me keep the work-life balance, even though it's really hard.
Yeah, no doubt. But that's so good that you carve out that space. And I also find it's those moments where we finally quiet that your creativity has a chance to reignite as well. And I'm sure you find in those spaces, the ideas probably flow so much, either when you're there or when you're back and your mind's getting back into the groove.
Yeah, it does.
So another element that we would love to leave our listeners with is a quote that you enjoy. So do you have a quote for us, Selene?
I do. It has a swear word in it, but I have
That's all good. We tend to swear all the time. I'm actually surprised. It's been pretty easy going this round.
Yeah, I have get shit done as a neon sign on my wall, and that's my life motto. And it reminds myself to not think too much and just do and live life, because there's no time for regrets.
Yes, get shit done.
Yeah.
And that is the motivation.
You've just listened to the Motivation Podcast with your host, Chrissy Van, and me, Lori Joy Kingwell.
Thanks for joining us along the ride. We've got new episodes dropping every Monday, and we're all about community. So follow us on Instagram at Motivation Podcast and visit our website at themotivation.com.
And in the meantime, tanks full and full throttle.